Yeah, Jay sent a notice. So he said. I know, I think you're from Australia, and it's trying to come out, but I got progress. It's been outside. Give you a treat like you. Okay. Yeah. Video. I'd like to call the April 24th, 2023 Town Council meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Brockmeyer. Councilmember Berger.
Present.
Councilmember Holdren. Councilmember Marino. Present. Councilmember Knox. Here. Councilmember Oswald. Here. And Mayor Toski.
Here.
Quorum is established.
You want to call the roll for the planning commission?
Commissioner Bagwell.
Here.
Commissioner Brockmeyer. Commissioner Byrd.
Present.
Commissioner Dillon.
Here.
Commissioner Fry.
Here.
Commissioner Tunstall. Here. And Chairperson Shriver.
Here.
Quorum is established as well.
Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A couple notes. Yeah, if anybody can't hear us, please
let us know that, if you don't continue to have a problem with that, but let us know if we get too far back from the mic. Couple things, there are 4 public hearings. I don't need to sign up if you want to speak at one of the public hearings. I'll just call on people. If you want to speak at the time for public comment, could you please sign up for that? Then you can speak on any topic. Obviously, at the public hearing, if you want to speak, address whatever issues for that at that public hearing. Also, if you have, please turn your cell phones off. I'm probably the most guilty. All right, approval of minutes for the March 27th, 2022 meeting. That was supposed to be 23, isn't it?
It's correct on the agenda, on the minutes, it's just wrong on the agenda.
Any additions or corrections on that?
There was one spelling change that I sent. To fix Mr. Dillon's name.
I have a question, not a correction, but I noticed under recorded votes,
What page are you on, please?
three. Councilmember Holdren was not recorded, but in the minutes, it shows her as present via Zoom. So my question is, do our votes count if we attend by Zoom?
Yes. Yes,
Yes,
yes.
so there's on page
That's that.
3.
I don't know if she voted though.
I'm thinking.
Yes, she
Well,
did.
did vote.
She did.
Okay.
One instance, I'm for sure I asked.
But they're not voting. Then
It did not change that, the fact
No.
that the motion did not carry, so I will report it.
So the motion passed 6-0 on page 6.
Correct.
Yes.
Are there any other corrections? Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the minutes as corrected.
A second?
A second.
All in favor? All right. All right, the first of these public hearings is actually on a property that I have an ownership in, so I'm going to excuse myself, and Vice Mayor Oswald is going to handle this public hearing.
I guess we have the gavel. All right, this okay, the public hearing is now open for the 16 Market Street Homestead. Planning Commission, how say you?
We don't actually have to rule, but we
No, but did
already,
you already go through?
we discussed it at the parameters that are in place for homestays. And we agree it should be approved.
Did everybody hear him? I didn't. I got most of it. Okay,
Yes, it was discussed at the planning commission
okay,
and moved to you.
thank you. Council? Any
I didn't have any questions.
questions? No? Okay.
I think they addressed everything that could have been.
I have on page 9. In the code 3E of our homestead code. An emergency not only available 24/7, can we address that? How that would be handled, Janet?
And there's several open chairs if some of the people standing want to come up towards the front.
One of the reasons that we're doing this is because our greatest concern when homestays came on the horizon was a plethora of absentee landlords. And so we are following the precedent set by Sid McGuire of being owner occupied and in and present whenever there is a guest in the house. So our number would be the emergency number, but not wanting to call things, we're gonna be right there in town.
You always.
We will never rent. We're not ever renting the whole house. We're renting rooms, and we will always be there if there are guests there. Okay, so that's what I want to address.
Anything else from council? You look like you have a question, Ray. No, all's well. Okay,
We have a letter.
can you read it, please?
I don't have it.
Where is it? Okay,
Thank you.
there's a letter.
It was sent separately, but we all received a copy of it. Does it need to be read
I think
into the
it should
minutes?
be.
Or do we?
I think so.
Go ahead, please, if you have it.
Well, it doesn't ask to be read into the minutes.
I'm asking that you please read it into the minutes if you have it. I don't have it. Otherwise, I would do it myself, because if there is some question that somebody took the effort to put forward, I think we should hear it.
Okay, or Philip and Priscilla, would you prefer to?
Be happy to read it. Good evening, council members. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Janet. This letter is from myself, Priscilla Hart, 21 Market Street, and Philip Siafa, my husband. He resides at 21 Market Street too. We live directly across from 16 Market Street. And we have enjoyed living there. The view is absolutely beautiful. The home is well maintained. Let me read what I wrote. Because we are very concerned about this beautiful home being a homestay. April 21st, 2023, we are writing to express our opposition to the proposed special use permit application, requesting that the owners of 16 Market Street be permitted to operate as a homestay. We live directly across the street from the private residence at 16 Market Street. It's well maintained, landscaped, and consistent with the pleasing historic aesthetic of the residential zoning district along Lower Market Street. One concern is potential adverse impact on the neighborhood's character. The land use section of the town of Onancock's comprehensive plan states that residential land use is the predominant land use, and that the intention is to preserve the existing character of the town's neighborhoods. Making this historic property into a homestay will not protect and promote the character of Onancock's single-family residential neighborhoods for current and future residents of the town. It will be detrimental to the character of our single-family neighborhood. Parking. Market Street, a Virginia Department of Transportation maintained two-way thoroughfare, has marked parking spaces on the north side of the roadway for westbound vehicular traffic. That's traffic going to the wharf. There are currently no stipulations nor restrictions of duration for parked vehicles. When the Foggy Place Cafe is open and operating, it's difficult to park in its vicinity. For their convenience, employees frequently monopolize parking spaces near our door. Time limits and overnight parking prescriptions authorized and enforced by appropriate authorities should be considered. Maybe that's for another date, but it's important at this particular time and this particular discussion. If a special use permit is approved, patrons of the homestay may or will opt to utilize these parking spaces in lieu of parking in the owner's driveway or front yard. The applicants have speculated that they have adequately anticipated and prepared their property with off-street parking. So one question is, what is a greater priority, business interests or limited rights of residents? The Onancock Town Council has had ongoing discussions, consideration, and decisions rendered about homestays and short-term rentals. Application approvals have been granted. A moratorium regarding scope and expansion of the program has occurred. Regulations, ordinances, administration, and enforcement are now presumably in effect. The homestay applicant has previously voiced objections about homestays and short-term rentals. The effect that they would have on the town, from not knowing who is living next door to inappropriate noise and activity in residential neighborhoods. Such activity is a disincentive and disadvantage for existing traditional hoteliers and innkeepers here. When 21 Market Street was for sale, that's the house that we live in now. When 21 Market Street was for sale, the applicant was adamant that the property would not adapt for any type of commercial use. Once the property is approved as a homestead, it will position the property as an investment opportunity for a potential buyer. The current owners have assured us that they have no intention of selling, but circumstances may change. We all know that can happen. When and if the property is offered for sale, if the sale is contingent upon use as a homestay or short-term rental, the seller and the buyer can request a continuance. So this could be a long-term problem. This could result in a negative change for the neighborhood for the foreseeable future. There are currently homestays and short-term rentals interspersed throughout many of our residential neighborhoods. We do not support the approval of this special use permit for 16 Market Street at this time. We request that the application is denied. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening.
Madam Chairperson, I would like to address one inequity in that statement, if you don't mind. Please do. I can't tell you how many, there have been about 5 owners in the house since we moved in 1984. There was one incident only, when a prospective buyer was looking at the house to have it rezoned to business B1, downtown business B1, because he wanted to turn it into a restaurant. And when he started polling the temperature of the neighborhood around him, we made it clear, Fletcher and I, that we did not want to see the business district expanded past the building that's Foggy Place, and that we would oppose rezoning a residential property, which is the house Priscilla lives in, to become a restaurant in B1. That is the only time we have ever opposed its use as anything but a home. If it had been proposed to become a bed and breakfast such as Matt runs, or an Airbnb, I doubt that we would have opposed it. But I just want to be very clear that we have not opposed use for that house similar to the use that we're asking for. And if anyone else has any questions, anyone that doesn't know, this house was built in 1883 by Fletcher's great-grandfather. Our children are 5th generation. They expect to have this home, and Priscilla's absolutely right. Anything can happen, things can change, but I'm not sure that our children would let us rest in our graves if we sold that house. So it will, for all our intentions for it to remain in the family. Comment, question?
I was under the impression that residential properties don't transfer special use permits. Is that not correct?
Correct.
So it wouldn't matter if the house
It
was
does
sold.
not, right, it does
Correct.
not.
Okay. Thank you for
To
clarifying.
resale, right. Any
And
other
to
questions
be
or
clear,
comments?
we have spoken with Priscilla and knew her concerns and absolutely support her right to have them. And hope that, you know, we will be able to allay her concerns if we are allowed this.
To clarify one point, on transferring a, application for a homestay. If a sale is contingent upon, the property becoming a homestay, the buyer and the seller can apply, and it can be granted if it is approved by the town council.
Right, but it's a whole other application process.
It is another application process,
Absolutely.
yes, but they're entitled to do that.
Yep. And if there's problems, I'm sure town council will stop it.
Thank
I would
you.
hope so, thank you.
Council,
Is there any other?
I asked that already.
Sorry, but
Thank
you.
I have a question for, is it Ms. Hart? Solar, yes. Have you spoken to your other neighbors and what are their thoughts?
I have spoken to some of our other neighbors. One neighbor who was absolutely, well, we were all stunned. Okay, you know, we were, when Janet called me, and she did, to let me know she was going to do this. I didn't know what to say on the phone. I was so surprised. So we were all extremely surprised. So surprised, definitely. not happy about it, but not in the position, and I'm gonna not in a position to oppose it. Let me just say that.
The comment in the back.
Brenda Smith, 12 Market. So I'm one of the neighbors. I just want to say that Ms. Foskey has also approached us. And after I looked at the application, I think it's a great idea, primarily because I'm sure they will be on the property. I have stayed ever since homestays became a thing. We have a larger family and we stay in homestays. And we're not wild people, but I can see how when an owner is not there, there's a little bit more of a free for all. And that has been one of my concerns with the homestay issue here in Anacog. I think the initial intent way back when, not even of Anacog, but when homestays started, that was the intent, was that the owner would be on the property. It would afford people additional income. It would afford, bolster the tourism. So I think the Foskey's plan is a solid one and I'm all for it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Council, I'll say you.
I have a question. What is the total number of approved homestays at this point?
Well,
So this would be 13?
yes. One thing I'd like to mention is there's no way that I'll be able to monitor whether or not the owners are on site or not. Once it's a homestay property, it's a homestay property.
And if tot is not collected in 1 year, then they have to reapply. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do we have any of those 12 that have not in the past year?
I'd have to check.
Okay, are we belaboring this? I think we're dragging. Council, how say you?
Did we close the public hearing?
Oh, okay, thank you. I should close the public hearing. Public hearing is
7:20.
at 7:20 PM. The public hearing is officially closed. Okay. I'm not gonna do anything.
I say aye.
We didn't vote, we don't have a motion. So someone has to make a motion to accept.
I move that we approve SUP 2023:04:01 with the following requirements. Up to 6 guests may occupy the homestay at any one time. All guests must park in the off-street spaces provided. The owner agrees with the terms of paragraph 38-77. The owner agrees to file transit occupancy tax reports. Paragraph 16-72 through 16-81, even if there is no revenue to report. And the owner agrees to provide the town with any online travel agent used to list the property for rent as a homestay.
That's the motion. Second by Mr. Berger. Discussion?
Yes, we had an issue a couple years ago with a homestay in which every neighbor in all 4 cardinal directions came in opposed to it. And this council voted 5-1 to approve it. And I don't see that many people opposed. So if we're calling for a vote, I will vote yes to approve.
Mr. Berger? Vote, yes,
Yes.
yes. The motion was approved and passed unanimously. Oops, did I get that?
Did you?
Okay, the next public hearing is, on 39 Meadville, 35, excuse me, 35 Meadville. Matt, fill us in on this. Well, first of all, I'll open the public hearing on the special use permit for a fence at 35 Meadville. Matt,
Sure. Yeah, the application is required for a special use permit because the fence design has a section of it that is taller than 4 feet and is closer to the road than the structure. That's required as part of as part of being on a corner lot. So that's the reason that this is requiring a special use permit. A couple of the more key measurements were that the fence has to be 2 feet off of any right of way. I contacted VDOT. The right of way for Sturgis was 40 feet, so I measured to the center and then 22 feet off of that. Flagged that, the owners saw that and acknowledged that that's where they could put the fence at its outermost point. So at this point, I did take it to the planning commission, just have them review it to make sure that I wasn't missing anything or interpreting the code. They had agreed with me and how I put this forward to you. Each of the neighbors, according to this older code, are required to be notified via certified mail. All of them were. I did hear back from one of those neighbors, and they said they don't have any problem with the fence. So that's.
Thank you. Are there any public comment on this issue? I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay, do we have a comment, council?
Have a couple of questions. What would the nature of the fence be? Would it be solid or latticed, or what would it look like?
It is gonna be solid, and it's just to enclose the backyard.
So along,
So it'll come just behind our garage, Sturgis side, and it'll come up the side on Meadville, which I don't need permission for,
right,
up to the side of the house. The side behind our garage, which is Sturgis Street, and then come around Sturgis Street, will come just to the house. And it'll enclose our deck and the pool that we're working on yet.
what would the length of the 6 foot tall section along Sturgis Street be?
That's not.
About 60 feet, maybe, roughly.
I'm not good with that. But it's just to pull in, so think about the garage. Through the deck, but to the house. That's the only part we're asking to.
Right, no, I understand. I'm just thinking about what it'll look like
So.
driving down Sturgis with a
It's far enough
stockade.
away where you would need to turn onto Meadville, so you can have plenty of line of sight before making that turn.
I wasn't even thinking
Yeah,
about the
and-
turn. I was thinking about the visual.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll be 13 feet from the road. It'll be a good ways off the road, and then we're gonna landscape it very nicely.
I don't know if people are aware of this, but there are no restrictions on fences in your backyard. This is an unusual, it's a corner lot. There are restrictions in your front yard. You can't have a fence higher than 4 feet. You know, if it's beyond, between the front of your house and the street, and it also has to have 30% transparency. So there is no requirement for their back fence and the fence between them and their neighbor. It's just this corner lot they can't put that fence without special use on the street side.
To have it 6 feet.
Yes.
My name is Peter Holt. I live on 15 Meadville Drive. First time I heard, I never got a lot of it.
But you're not an adjacent property.
Yeah, but I'm on a corner lot on Meadville
Yeah.
and Ames, so could I put a 6 foot fence up around my corner?
As long as you're out of the right of way and get special permission by the town.
I mean, you want a 6 foot fence down Meadville and Ames Street?
You can't put it in the front of your yard. Yeah. Now the side, this is their backyard. We're not talking about the front yard. We're talking about their backyard.
Nothing on Meadville.
No.
Not on me,
No, just in the backyard.
The fence on the Meadville side is not gonna go past the house.
There's no fence on me.
Well, there will be up
In the back.
Yeah, but it won't go past the house.
But it's the first time.
You know, like I said, we have no, if you're putting a fence in your backyard, you can put up anything without any permit. It's just that this is they can't do it on the corner lot. That's
The only complaint would really be Sturgis Street.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes,
The back, the other side would be the neighbors. So
right, and that's allowed by right.
it's fine.
Yeah.
So,
Any other questions from council?
Might have to do more than tonight. Is your driveway gonna go through your fence? Or is driveway?
No, we're gonna move
Hey.
the driveway to the front. We're gonna park up front.
So you will have no access to your garage.
Well, we're gonna have a gate, so we will have access to the garage and our pop-up trailer.
So the gate will be part of the 6 feet
Yes.
on my street.
Any
My
other
neighbor
questions?
across the street seems to be okay with
Yeah.
it. She gets to look at it all the time.
Okay. Do we have a motion to, and we can have discussion, motion?
I move we accept the special use permit application as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
That's what we want to build. It's some of them
It's
that
a privacy fence because we're putting in a pool.
wooden,
No, it's gonna be,
plastic.
It doesn't matter.
it's not wood, but
It's gonna be, it doesn't matter.
Vinyl.
Nice.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. They have.
We're not done something on it.
fence.
Yeah.
It's a privacy fence.
All right, that call for the vote, all in favor? Right,
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
ladies?
Yes.
3 no.
Okay. I carried 3-1.
thank you.
The third public hearing is on, Article 11 signage. Matt, you want to, let me open the public hearing on this and then you can tell us what that's about.
Sure. Thank you. We've had some changes happen downtown and in B2 and what we want, and we realized that our sign ordinance didn't speak specifically to any of those issues. So we put before planning commission a much more specific regulation about signage. There aren't any sweeping changes as far as what's allowed and what's not allowed. It just called out little things like murals, for example. I mean, we're all really enjoying that painting that's going over around the corner. So we wanted to be specific about what was allowed, what is allowed with murals and what's not allowed. Some things about banners, where they're going up, and how they're going up and how long they stay up for events and things like that. So these are really just administrative supports. Again, no sweeping changes. The one thing I would say is that the change would be no internally lit signs downtown. And that was really because we've got such charm and character downtown with the hanging signs with downward lighting that it really adds to our character, and internally lit signs don't. Obviously, any sign that's in place currently that would end up being non-conforming gets to stay and it's grandfathered, and there's no issue. That we would just rather, when a sign is replaced, it follows these new codes. There's also a potential of a change in the bank, and that's a very dramatic sign. And if we get this ordinance change, then we might be able to have a sign at the bank that might be a little bit more pleasing to us in our community.
Matt, you said rather, and which is very open word to say we'd rather it be. Will anyone be affected? Absolutely. If the bank changes, would it be absolutely affected to change that from a backlit sign?
Yes,
Okay, so they would be required. It's not rather.
new signs would be required to follow this ordinance. Yes.
So they wouldn't be, unless they were changing their logo and their stuff, they could leave what's there.
Because they're changing everything. It's a new name, so they would have to change it. And if that means that you have to get with them prior to, because they don't know that it's not permitted. And I had another
We'll
question.
get public hearing first on this, and then public, and then we're supposed to listen to the public and then come into our conversations. That's the way to go. Yeah. Public comment on this sign ordinance?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was,
Sure, no, there's,
if it's a part of
could
this.
you say who you are, please, and
Yeah,
please?
sure, Maurice Thomas.
We know who you
Maurice
are.
Restaurant. My question is, in regards to persons putting up signs for other people's businesses, misleading them where to go. What can be done about that?
I doubt this is in that ordinance, but I'll have to hand out the map, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Great. In the specific instance you're talking about, we've had a couple of different conversations about showing that person appreciation for off-premise advertising for you. But we've also said that off-premise advertising is not allowed, so those signs are gonna have to be removed. You also can't put them on a telephone pole, so when that happens, we'll remove them as well.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment on the sign ordinance? All right, I'm gonna close the, oh, excuse me, I got somebody waving their hand back there? Yes. I got, I can't, you gotta, okay, come on up front, or you could just get past the post.
I'm Paul Whitesell, 30 Mayfield, just a question. The Roseland, I assume is an interim that's.
It is not. We actually called that out specifically to say that marquees are changeable letter signs that are permanently affixed to the building are allowed by right.
And my question is answered. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Unless they change, it'd be grandfather unless they change hands, correct?
Correct.
Right, yeah. All right, to close the public hearing, okay, council.
Wait.
Okay, gotta stand.
Thank you, Brian. Priscilla Hart. Murals. Is there something specific, I mean, can anybody just put a mural on their building or?
That's
Yeah.
a fair question. The answer is generally yes, but it says murals painted directly on a structure with no reference to any business, product, or service. Can't be advertising. Be a mural.
On a residential property too?
I can paint the side of my house the way I want.
I can too.
Yeah.
Oh, great, thank, do you think that that could be, you could make some guidelines about that?
You mean, bring it up, yeah, if you, yeah.
Some, I would think some restrictions might be in order.
Restrictions, I think she's asking if someone decided to paint a mural on their personal property, would there be restrictions? And according to the current proposed sign regulations, there are none, because there's nothing in here about residential business. So.
Not just residential properties, but other business properties. There are lots of business properties in the town.
Yes.
And I'm certain that Main Street doesn't have plans to put murals in all of those places. So there are probably some places where we could have some unusual art that isn't approved.
I mean, you get, I mean, that's a council decision if they wanted to put it in, that would be up to council if they wanted to change the ordinance.
That would mean we'd have to have a standing committee to approve additional and any artwork.
Well, it seems like you're getting the First Amendment, you know, right?
Thereby my question.
Yeah, I don't know. Good question. I mean, I'm sure other cities, we could look at others, if other cities do it or not, I don't know.
Just a
Yeah,
thought.
thank you. Yeah. All right, council, anybody, other public comment? I think. Okay, thank you. Council comment?
I have a couple of questions.
I did close it earlier.
Did you?
I just took them after I closed it. Yeah.
Oh, all right, sorry.
Okay. On handwritten page 27, item 2B at the bottom. In cases where contiguous zoning is different, what does that mean?
If we have 3 properties that are contiguous and 2 of them, and they each have different zoning, then the most restrictive is gonna deal with the one in the middle.
Okay,
So that we're not gonna have an encroachment of business signage into residential if it's surrounded by.
thank you.
Okay.
I want to bring up one question, please. We give permits to people to have home businesses. But we have no, this proposed ordinance does not allow them to put any kind of lighting on it. Any kind, so they cannot light the sign to say, or even a little footlight to it. So what's the point of giving someone a permit to do business when you cannot show that that business is there and in darkness? So why, my question is, why are we not allowing any kind of lighting on those signs?
My reading of it was that there could not be uplighting, but there could be lighting aimed down that would illuminate it.
The home businesses do not allow illumination.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, I
but
missed that.
signs downtown or anywhere else, we're asking for downward facing lighting because we want to honor dark sky intent.
But does that include a business in residential area, just, they are permitted to put it down facing?
No,
I didn't
not
see-
in this ordinance. This
That's
ordinance says home businesses cannot have illumination on their sign.
So I read it wrong, thank you.
Okay, so my question is, why make someone pay for a permit to have a home business if you're not going to let them show that they're in business with a light on their sign?
Well, I think the intent of the home business was to limit the impact on the residential district. So if you, a home business is not supposed to be any sign that there's a business going on there in the residential district. And
So
so,
we're gonna hide it.
so if you have a light on it 24/7, that
It's not 24/7.
well, it could be, if you allow that illumination. So if you have, I'm just throwing this out, that you're trying to limit the impact on the residential district. I don't think it's a big deal. I understand what you're saying, but
I get that,
yeah.
but so I'm just saying some illumination should be allowed. Of, I don't know, what do you call it? It's what, 75 watt, 25 watt? I don't know what. Well, okay, we don't have to be that specific, but I just think it should be an opportunity at 5 o'clock in the winter. It's dark. And some of those businesses may depend on that, hairdresser or whatever. You go on to 8 o'clock.
Well, I think the council needs to put something.
I'm just asking why you would not allow some sort of lighting on a.
Do you want to vote on this tonight?
Well, ideally, yes, but not, that's up to you folks. I mean, that's.
Yeah, okay, good comments?
I have a couple of others. On page,
Excuse me.
No, we're gonna come back to that. You three, we'll vote on that. We'll talk about that later. Let's hear other people's concerns. No, I'm not gonna vote on that, you know. You need to make a motion about it.
okay, on 38-407D,
What page?
put 28. The first line of that item D. It needs to change from signage on the property of an abandoned business, not an abandoned business says.
I've got that.
And then in the next line, the same sentence, instead of which the town may order removal of. Could we not say whose removal the town may order? On page 30. 38-412, item H, last full line, there's an ARE that should be is. That's 30.
Yeah, I got that.
That R should be is.
Yeah, I got that.
And on the next page, 31, off premises sign, there's a reference to 38-4XX. Wasn't sure if that was some secret paragraph or to be determined and it hadn't been decided yet. or what.
It was to be determined based on after this had been numbered. That's a
And
great catch, thank you.
on the first line under enforcement, the last comma shouldn't be there, I think.
Any other comments?
Those are mine.
Yes, in the past. And I'm asking for this to happen in the future also. When we had current code and proposed code. We had the proposed in red.
The markup.
Right, the reason is that the second copy was drafted from another city's and it didn't come from ours at all.
Makes it really difficult. You have to go line by line to compare current with proposed. So is there any way we could get that? With the red so that we could, I checked with Councilmember Burgers, and it's not online either like that. It's not,
No, it's
Shut
not,
down.
because like I say, we didn't transition
you
from
wrote
A
an
to
entirely
B.
new code.
Exactly.
You could do a whole document compare, but it would be so much false positive,
be
it would be
all-
meaningless.
Yeah, it'll be all red.
Right,
So according to this code, if the bank changes names, they would not be allowed to have their sign.
no, they just couldn't have an internally lit sign.
That's what I mean.
They can have a sign, just can't be internally lit, or, that's correct,
That's correct.
yes.
So they could change it to an LED and that'd be fine.
But as long as it's downward facing, not internally lit, it can be, it could be whatever they
Yeah,
want.
depends on where they are. If it's inside the sign, you're talking about those plastic signs that's got light inside.
Right.
However you create the light inside is the material.
Right.
Whether it's LEDs or-
Small LEDs.
That's- If it's in the sign, that's not allowed, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could put, I guess if the LEDs are exposed, that's not.
That's what I
internally lit. Right,
Yes.
well, if they're, yeah,
Okay.
I understand what you're saying now. Is the bank gonna be sold? I'm sorry.
Changing name.
Oh, that's-
TD Ameritrade.
Okay, yeah, that's out, and that's happening.
And have we ever had a bank leave town?
Yeah.
Okay, just asking a question. Yeah.
All right, how, council,
I'd like to spend a little more time with this. I think there's a lot of questions being generated that we can study a little more closer.
yeah, we don't have that,
Yeah.
Daryl?
I'm ready to vote on it tonight, but it depends on the consensus.
Davis?
I would like to at least address the one question that I had. And ask if there could be some sort of amendment to that, so that there could be some lighting on a sign on a home business.
We can make a motion. to that.
I would like
But
to-
would you, but my other question is, would you want to proceed on the rest of the ordinance? You're happy with it? Or do you? Yeah,
Don't home business signs have different regulations than business and business district signs have?
No
Yes.
lighting allowed.
you're only allowed 4 square feet.
Right.
Square feet and no lighting.
No, yeah. And that's, so she's just talking about the lighting, yeah.
So is this like a blanket sign policy for all districts, or is this specific to business district signs?
No, this is a home business that I'm talking about.
But this ordinance is for
Right.
all signage.
Is it for all signage?
Yeah.
This whole ordinance is, but what I'm talking specifically about is a home business that has paid for a permit to be in business, that has no right to have a light on their business.
But you said Mr. Maris will be doing down here.
If the planning commission, I have asked you all any questions about it. You guys were, any comments? You're happy with the ordinance?
No.
Written?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a motion on this then? There's 3 people who want to move on. Maybe she want to make. a
I would
motion?
like, I move that we make an amendment to this ordinance to allow lighting on a home business sign.
Okay, so 38,409.
What page are we on?
29.
Page 29 says home occupation signs with a total surface area not exceeding 4 square feet per sign may not be illuminated. We can just take out the word not. And it could say may be
Don't even
illuminated.
say that. Take that out.
Well, you want to limit the surface
No,
area.
you don't have to say anything about illumination. You don't say about it.
4 square feet.
Yeah, leave that.
Just leave it to this,
Yeah.
just leave it to the,
Just remove
to
the
the sides and like that. To have no question about lighting at all.
Yeah, just 4 square feet.
Right.
Let's stop there. Yeah. And you approving the rest of the one, about the rest of it.
I would, yes.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion? Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Right? Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right. All right, and the final public hearing tonight is the 2024 town budget, and hand that back to Matt.
Sure. The budget that got put forward to council for its first for its first pass was presented in balance. And that balanced budget had no tax increase for real estate. It had no change in personal property tax rates. It had no change in personal property tax rate for vehicles. And it remained friendly to businesses in that we're not going to tax the tools to do their jobs.
Thank you, Planning Commission. Sorry, guys.
So with no tax increase, with no increases of any real kind to taxpayers, we were able to balance the budget, get a few small projects included, and give raises to staff that are commensurate with our colleagues, I'm sure.
We are not going to vote on the budget tonight. We're not allowed by law to do that. So that'll happen at the May meeting. So this is a public hearing. So I'm now going to open the public hearing. If anybody has any comments about the budget, please raise your hand. And you,
I didn't have time to go over.
name it where you,
Mark.
I know who you are, but you need to let everybody.
I'm sorry.
I didn't have.
What's your address again?
I'm sorry,
Address?
19142 Greenway Circle.
Thank you.
I didn't have time to read the whole budget. I just hope somewhere in there you allocated $2,000 for a new speaker system.
Thank you.
I was under the impression it's in this year's budget. Is that correct, Mr. Spock?
We're working on it, but you had made a request for an ADA compliant system. And to interface with hearing aid devices and other such things is a very expensive process. So I was planning on putting new microphones and speakers in the room.
Let's try that first. Yeah.
Should we do a two-step?
Yeah, let's see what happens. Yeah.
Are they compatible? Could you put new speakers?
I
And
have, once
microphones,
you
and then
activate
go
ADA compliant, that changes the nature of the project. So I can bring it back to microphones and speakers pretty easily.
But is that then compliant with ADA
No,
that we would put in?
no,
We'd have to buy new speakers and microphones.
you have to get an interface that connects to hearing devices.
No, excuse me, but what you're proposing, if the speakers and microphones, could they be adaptable to ADA after it's?
I haven't seen any that do that. It's a different frequency, it's a different layout completely.
Okay.
So I'm still, that's why it's not in, is because I'm trying to learn how and if we can make it ADA compliant.
Well, why don't we just try some? I mean, the speakers here are horrible. They're just in the cheap speakers in the ceiling. Let's get some better. Let's try that first. And then I think you can add on that. It's a transmitter of a different system that transmits to people. Yeah. It's totally a different system, but I think you can add it. But it isn't, you're planning on doing this budget cycle?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not an item for the next budget.
No, I'm
Okay,
gonna
thank
try
you.
to get it
All right, we'll talk about that. Yeah. All right. Any other comments about the budget? This coming up budget that starts June 30th? No other comments about the budget? All right, close the public hearing on the budget. All right.
I have one question
Yeah, on the budget.
on the budget.
Okay.
At whenever that was that we went through the budget in detail and you presented the various choices for family or spouse coverage on the town supplied medical insurance. Is any of that increase included in what we're presenting or not?
No, because at this point, we don't have anyone who's choosing family coverage. So if we can buy that year and restructure it, we're gonna be putting our insurance company out for bid completely this year. And that'll give us a little bit more, I hope, competitive pricing. But, we're on the state system right now, so it's probably as good as you're gonna see.
Any other questions about the budget? Like I said, we're not going to vote on this tonight. We have to vote on it next time. And we can't make it any more. We can't change anything except to make it less. Take stuff, we could take spending out, but we could
Not without having another
public
public
hearing,
hearing.
correct, but we can take spending out. We can't do any different. Correct. Right. All right, Yeah, the next thing is the public presentation by the Friends of Impact School.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hayden Rochester. I reside at 39 King Street in Onancock, and I'm the president of Friends of Onancock School. Last week, the Friends of Onancock School delivered to Town Council our HOS Pavilion operational guidelines, as we agreed to do at the January 18th, 2023 Town Council work session. We look forward to working with the council to refine these guidelines so that someday we can open a state-of-the-art performance space to provide cultural and economic benefits to historic Onancock School, the town's business community, and everyone on the Eastern Shore of Virginia. In the past 2 months, Historic Onancock School has hosted 5 meetings with members of the nearby community and others. In our guidelines, we have responded to the best of our ability to the concerns raised. The guidelines have been reviewed and approved by the FOS Board of Directors. We feel strongly that under these guidelines, HOS could operate a culturally and financially successful performance pavilion. FOS has acted in good faith throughout the pavilion process, from the first germ of the performance space idea in 2011 through FOS board discussions in 2020 to presentations of our intent to the town council in February 2022. Following a 6-0 council vote on March 28, 2022, allowing FOS to proceed, we applied for and received all the required permits, on-site reviews, and approvals during construction. At no time did we attempt to deceive anyone or to conceal what we intended to do. Sadly, without a single individual with questions about the pavilion coming to speak to a representative of FOS, in the fall of 2022, we became the target of a campaign in the local and out-of-state media and in council meetings and on doorsteps and front porches throughout Onancock. In response, on December 14th, 2022, we hosted a public information meeting at HOS open to all. Our efforts that evening had little or no effect, and the campaign against the pavilion and FOS continued. Next, in a further attempt to respond to community concerns, the FOS board participated in the work session on January 18th of this year. Then, notwithstanding the fact that the guidelines were in a draft stage and had not been presented to council, at the March 27th, 2023, I'm sorry, that's a mistake, council meeting, pavilion opponents were given nearly an hour to recycle concerns we were in the process of addressing in our guidelines and to criticize details of the pavilion approval process. Despite this relentless campaign by a group that to this day refuses to reveal their leadership, sources of income, or ultimate intentions for the HOS property or the town itself, FOS remains eager to continue with the pavilion process and to work with council regarding operational procedures for a successful outdoor performance space in Onancock. In the meantime, FOS intends to comply with any requested mitigation for the minor encroachment of the pavilion foundation into the resource protection area. We will remove unused building materials from the site and secure the foundation with appropriate fencing and signage, which we will maintain at FOS expense for as long as necessary. Getting to this point has been a bumpier road than we expected and required input from many dedicated, caring people. At this point, I would like to thank them for their support of this project, specifically members of the local community who made up our ad hoc committee to provide input for the guidelines. That is to say, Jeff Albertson, Cindy Downing, Patsy and Greg Feldhausen, Patricia Fleck, James Forwalk, Dick Freeman, Gary Givian, Norman Hagee, Rosemary Pahoro, Hayden Rochester, Mark Sinclair, Terry Swain, Rick Turner, Jeremy Ware, and Clark Williams. In addition, we have been assisted by Robert Sabatini of the ESV Chamber of Commerce, Gerald and Polly Boyd, the OBCA Board of Directors, Sarah Stewart and Carl Stiegelbauer of North Street Playhouse, Kitty Croak of RCEC, Dr. Paul Kim of the Orchestra of the Eastern Shore, Donna Boza of CB's, Ashley Antunes of PSO, Wayne Dyes of Accomack Community Band, Terry Swain, John Custis, Russell Lynn, Jeff Daking, Kevin Short, and Mike LeCates of Mid-South Audio in Milton, Delaware, Event staff of the Freeman Arts Pavilion in Selbyville, Delaware, Rick and Janice King, the Orr Smith Family Foundation, county staff, staff from Onancock Building Supply, town manager Matt Spock, Mayor Fletcher Foskey, and the members of council. Current and former members of the MOS Board of Directors, Lonnie Godwin and Heather Shaw, and especially Joni Donahoe, our indefatigable executive director, who has endured more than any of us while continuing to do a spectacular job running a wonderful community and cultural center. Throughout our 16-year history, the Friends of Onancock School has focused on what we feel is the best for the future of the historic Onancock School property, the town, and our Eastern Shore community. Just because we've been forced to pause the pavilion for now does not mean we're done. We will continue to operate a highly successful community and cultural center that gets better every year. All our available spaces are rented, and we have more activities and events scheduled for our 17th year than we had ever had before. We urge others to join FOS in focusing on Onancock's future rather than the past. Do you suppose that the townspeople living here when Onancock was chartered in 1680 really sat around the campfire talking about 1679? I suspect not. They embraced the future and built a great town, a great state, and a great nation. And we revere them for their foresight and service. We here tonight are the beneficiaries of their efforts. In conclusion, I ask you, in the coming decades and centuries, what will people think of us? Thank you.
There was no presentation, it was just an applause of what you've done today. Thank you.
Do we have an operational, for those that, and the, audience there, they have submitted a pavilion operational guideline here. And it's a public document on the website. Anybody wants to look at it. We've only had it for what, 4, 5, 6 days. So the question is how does council want to proceed going forward? There's a lot of details in the operational guidelines that, people may have concerns, one way or another. I have no intention of, but I don't think we should vote on anything tonight about this. This is a process. So I think, we need, the next step in going forward is to look at their operational guidelines. And, the question is, how can the town ensure that those operational guidelines are carried out? And I think, I talked to Matt about, the council needs to discuss that there are certain ways to do that. A memorandum of understanding, modifying the lease, or certain ordinances. I think, council needs to, I think we probably need to get, we need to figure out how to go forward on this and possibly ask Matt to come up with some possible scenarios for talking to an attorney about how we would regulate what goes on in the school. So, and then get in discussions about individual things. So, question is, does council have any opinion about how we want to proceed from here? Do we want to have, have people submit written, comments to this proposal and come back and have an open meeting, a work session with the school and council? So we need opinions going forward.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't think the council has had a work session on this at all yet. I don't think public has been duly involved to the degree they need to be, or to know all of the facets of this issue. There are far-reaching consequences and pluses and minuses, but I don't think we've had the opportunity as a town and as a council to work through them. And I think, and I've been asking from the very beginning that there be a workshop with the council and the public, a workshop, just so that we can hear and know what people really think and feel. It's not factions, it's about this whole town. This is our whole future. There's a lot at stake here. There's a lot more at stake than a pavilion.
Darren,
I think that the guidelines that are outlined here are good, possibly the number of events is a little high, but what I'm wondering is, would this, are you envisioning incorporating this into the lease or?
I think that possibly, we need to look at certain ways how we want to do it. And I think we need to talk to our town attorney and, Matt needs to get some opinion from them to see how the best. I think he's indicated in the past that would probably be the best route to go, is to modify the lease with the school. And we'd have to sit down, but I think this is the first time we've had some concrete numbers to work with, and the council needs to come back with some of their ideas and, about numbers and things as well. We're still not there, but it's a start. So I need to know, do we want,
Mayor, I don't see anything more concrete in this proposal than we've had to date. And I do, and that's what I'm saying, that's how I feel about it, I've read it through. And I don't feel there's anything more concrete than we've had to date. But I would like to have an opportunity with our lawyer present to talk about lease modification and be a workshop so that we can come together and have an idea of where we're going with this, not just tomorrow, but years from now.
We're a town of NIMBYs, you're familiar with the expression NIMBYs.
Not my
Not in
backyard.
my backyard. A lot of people are affected by this, a lot of people are not affected by this. So, I reached out in the past, since I saw these operational guidelines from Historic and Hancock School, to members of my family and former council members here in Hancock, and asked them, how do we solve this? How do we quit dealing with this? How do we move on from this? And surprisingly, they all three, one is a mayor of a much larger city than ours, one is a town manager of a city the size of ours, and a former council member here, and they all suggested the same thing. That the council, and we need to have an open public meeting with the Friends of Hancock School and the concerned citizens and the council in council chambers. That can be a common ground with our honorable mayor and our honorable town manager as mediators. And then hear, what are the issues and how do we solve them? Thank you.
it would be nice if we could go into the meeting to have some kind of, let's start with this framework. So if people have ideas about, if even the public, if you have an idea about how many performances you want to have, what time, if everybody's had a chance to look at this, I'm sure, and then, what times things are going to start and stop, if they're,
Those are all the
parking.
things we have to worry about.
We need input, if people could give us input before the meeting, and then we have something written down to go on, it makes it a little easier, to look at something written and say, well, I don't like that, or well, I want to change that. But we can still, we can't have the ideas come up at that meeting, but it would be nice to have, if council could express, some, ideas before we get into the meeting and, and say what they would like to say, because we're the ones that are gonna ultimately make that decision.
I want to hear from the people.
Well, I think I mean, we know, but we haven't heard. Well, I mean, I'd like to see specific proposals about, from everyone, and the school has put out some proposals here, and I would like to hear from the public about what they think about those proposals and what they would like to see.
Exactly.
Down to the nitty gritty about, about what, times that things are gonna happen.
What can we live with?
Yeah, I mean, the impact that's gonna happen, parking, security, all this. And no one's really put out many numbers, and this is a start that isn't gonna probably make it,
Well, there's so much if in this proposal that I don't see how you can think it's anything concrete or anything more than we've had, because you're talking about 13 to 15 events this year, that year, it's all kind of loosey-goosey.
and talking about police security and like security is gonna just snap up. Do you have private security coming in? Do you have, there are a lot of questions that have not been answered. You're saying security, you're saying parking, and I understand these things, and this is what the questions are, but I don't see real answers. I don't see that it's gonna cost another to have our entire police force policing an event when the town goes unprotected. I don't see where that meshes. I don't see the information there, how that happens. So I still think we are right back to 2 years ago.
But you haven't put forth any ideas, you're just,
I'm asking.
and so we have to have something to start with, is what I'm saying. And then you say, well, I don't like that, I want to add this to security, I want to add this to the number of events they have. We gotta have to start somewhere,
I
with
wanna
something on
know-
a piece of paper.
I want to know how we can modify the lease. I want to know.
Well, that's what
With our lawyer sitting there present, that's what I'm asking for.
Well-
And I'm asking that we work with anybody and all comers who want to sit in a work session.
right, well, and we obviously can't have any secret meetings, we're gonna, anything we do
Not
is open to the
proposing
public.
that.
No, everything's open to the public, yeah.
Oppose that.
Yeah, but I mean, any work session we have is open to the public, so are we consensus that we want to, but, I'm just afraid we're gonna go into a work session with any. It would be nice to have some better, some numbers that we're looking at to start with. Or
So
some
then
facts, yeah,
perhaps council needs to come up with a
Yeah.
work session first
right.
and then put that compared to this.
I mean, I think everybody on council here has a different idea about what they want to see.
Different motivation.
Yes, and everybody, and a lot of people in the audience have a different idea about what they want to see. We need to meet somewhere,
And Joy's trying to speak for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah. Fine. Councilmember Knock and Holdren and I attended the Virginia Municipal League Conference. And Councilmember Holdren asked, how do you get people on board with an unpopular decision? And if you recall, Sarah, the answer was transparency. You have to be transparent. You have to say, this is what you want, this is what you want, we're a town of reasonable people. We're a town of kind people who can work together. I believe that, and we can come up with a reasonable solution. We have something to start with right here in front of us. If that's the issue that's stopping us from having an open meeting, an open public meeting, we can start with this.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I propose that we have a work session of council to come up with what we think is right. And wait a second,
Okay.
let me finish. Because we're all over the place with that. So we have no focus as a council as to what we want to do and how we want to do it, as far as I can tell.
I would prefer if we hear from people.
George,
And we
if I
take it-
get an opportunity to
Excuse me.
finish my thought,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
then we are prepared to an open forum. We have no focus ourselves at this point. And if we have, this is as a starting point, you have to have a draft to start somewhere. I agree. This is a good draft to start from. And then if council can come to a point where we know what we'd like to see happen, and then present both sides of this to our public.
So you're arguing about the same things. Hers is taking 2 steps and yours is gonna take
Take one.
one, yeah, so
Streamline the process.
That we need to put in some effort.
the point is that at some point. Council's gonna have to decide on what they want to see out there. And so you're gonna have to step up and say, I like this, I don't like this.
Right.
And, and it's something you've heard from the public, you need to start making, people need to make up their mind about what they want to do. And we need to hear from the public. Some specific things about what they don't like about this proposal. And what they would like to see it added on or added up, not added on. But we've only had this 4 or 5 days. So I think.
Not just this specific
Anything, yeah.
specific proposal, but the proposal that the council is pushing forward to.
But I think we're all in
And give it
agreement.
all to the
We're
public.
looking at some kind of lease agreement is the best way to control the, and we need to And I think our attorney needs to weigh in on that. I don't think the attorney's gonna weigh in on how many tents are gonna have out there or how we're gonna handle the parking. But I do think, he does need to weigh in on how we're gonna, have some, we need to have some kind of way we can control that. So, I would like to see, council really look at these guidelines between now and we have to set up a meeting, a work session and come up with some ideas of your own, talk to people. You know who we are, talk to us, give us your ideas.
That these 2 weeks, right, to publicize,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what, look at the calendar, let's make a date, let's get to.
Do we have a consensus? That's what we want to do.
I'm not clear on what we're proposing, that we would have a council meeting where we would come up with our set of guidelines. Is that correct?
Basically to understand what these guidelines are and how the town in whole would be affected by them. And what we could say yes or no to or counter propose.
But I mean, you've had 4 or 5 months of people, speaking. We're gonna hear more tonight about other people's opinions. So
But
I
this
think,
is their final, I mean, this is.
yeah, but I'm talking about other people who want to weigh in on it. Yeah. So I think we need to, we as a council need to come up with some proposal that we prevent the prevent the public.
I still think it's a 2-step process.
I don't disagree with you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll
It's
go
up-
along.
it's up to council.
Sure, I'll attend to a meeting.
And I know some council don't, Sarah, I mean, I think we need to get this right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not rush
Okay.
through it. I think,
All right, so you're proposing council comes up with their own guidelines, a whole other document?
I think council should say what they think about this document.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's different than what I'm hearing.
No, modify, if you want to modify this document, you don't like any of it, come up with some other, but council needs to give us some. You guys need to decide on what you think is acceptable at some point. We're the governing body here. We need to make some, decisions about how we're gonna handle this. We just can't keep shoving it down the road. Right, we need to hear, and however you want to do it, we just need to. There have been very few concrete proposals thrown out about how this is gonna operate, and this is the start of it. Yeah, and I think that's, the crux. There are other, and so, does anybody have a problem with having a special meeting then? Okay. Anybody? So we're gonna set up nobody's opposed, okay, Matt?
Are we on board with this? 2 meetings?
Well,
Sarah?
One.
One.
2 meetings.
well, we're gonna have
So it seems,
the second meeting could be a council meeting.
It's a work session,
The second meeting could be a rec.
once, as a council, not once. We have talked, we have listened, we have heard proposals, and we voted. We have not worked through this once.
that's not what I propose. What I propose is an open public meeting. Let me finish. With Friends of Hancock School and concerned citizens, and they address the issues, then it comes to council. You're putting
How are
council.
we gonna do that? We're gonna have like a room like this. You're asking people ideas.
Let's go through this.
Right.
So now we've had that 3 times.
Already.
That's
We
why
did
I
that
want
3
to encapsulate what we
Yeah, I
did.
think we need to come up with some, proposals, let's put it out to the public, and they need to react, and the groups need to say, well, this is acceptable, the FOS needs to.
Then at that point.
Then we're not gonna do anything without, public input, but we need to come up with something in response to this, that was the agreement, yeah. So I think that's the start, his council needs to make the decision at some point. I mean, there's, but unfortunately, we haven't got 2 people here that, it's a small minority, I think, but, it would be nice to hear from them, so I think we definitely don't want to move anything.
We are moving just to work, just to go to a work session and then have a public meeting.
Right.
That's not requiring a whole lot of input. I think we're there. We need to do this. We haven't done it.
So we're gonna schedule a work session. I think next, 15.
That's,
Monday, the 15th.
Yeah,
Then we could be prepared to go into
Town meeting.
Point of order, would that be open to the public?
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
no, we can't have a meeting with that, that's not. open.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Answer your
But
question.
work sessions don't allow public comment. They don't.
About that.
No, I'm sorry, they simply don't.
They
If you
don't.
want to hold if you want to hold a meeting, that's different.
We're working on it. We have to work ourselves.
Have you checked?
Show that. Don't allow public comment.
Yes, and, yeah, and that's.
It's open, it's open.
It's open,
Yeah.
but they don't come.
Right, yeah.
17th, maybe? Debbie wasn't here on the 15th.
That's the-
Wednesday.
Yeah.
It is.
That's when the Hill people are here.
Yes, it is.
That a night thing or a day?
Yeah, we can't do that.
No, I can't do it
No,
after the
I can
18th.
do that.
Prior to.
It was the-
What happened on Monday?
Debbie.
Debbie's not here.
Mary Ellen would be. Maybe.
Yeah, you'll probably get Mary Ellen as a backup.
What day we do?
15th? Well. I prefer not, but we can do the 15th.
I'm sorry?
The 15th will work.
Yes.
Okay.
Time,
6 o'clock,
sounds good.
6.
Bring back on the 15th.
15th at 6 o'clock.
And that's just for the council.
Good work session for, I mean, everybody that says any, anybody. Has to- and it certainly take, if you want to make a written comment before that, please, send something in. We'll look at it, And then we're gonna have another, present something there. All right, we agreed on that then?
Yep,
Okay. All right, the next thing.
Clarity on that, please. The public will not be able to speak or will be able to speak.
At a work session, the public will not be able to speak at that specific meeting. But
and then there's
there's
another.
gonna be another at a regular council, we will present what we come up with at the next meeting. There will not be, we have to come up with proposals, counter proposals, and then have time to speak to that,
Is the document that the school of Mononcock presented to you, for the forum, is that open to the public?
Sure.
People can do.
Yeah, it's on the
So
website.
where is it?
On the website,
On which website?
netcount.com.
At Hancock.com under.
So anybody can read it
Anybody can read it,
and review it.
It went on
And if they have any concerns, they can write you.
I mean, that'd be fine,
Yeah,
We
that's the way.
talk to any of the council members, right, specific concerns about it. And that's
So everybody in the town should read the document. If
right,
they have any concerns, they should
Right.
write.
and then we'll look at the
Right.
document, and
And
then,
then that'll be your forum for the 15th, to study them all. And
Right.
then you'll have an open public meeting on it.
You got it.
Very simple.
So the document is available on the town website at Hancock.com on the calendar, which would be tonight's. And then where it says, council and then the agenda packet has the comments in it.
Joni,
It's on the historic.hancockschool.org.
excuse me, hold on a second, what?
It is also on the historic.hancockschool.org website. The document of the guidelines.
Okay,
And my question is there any public comment tonight?
yes, I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. We got two more, okay, we're good on. All right, council action, we don't have any scheduled action tonight, or those kind of thing, council discussion, I think we're. All right, now we're on public comment. All right. Catherine Belknap?
Close. It's Karen Belknap.
Oh, sorry,
That's okay.
I can't read it.
That's okay.
I know you are. I wasn't looking at you.
My name is Karen Belknap and my company is Snippet Sheet. And I am a resident of Historic Hancock. Thank you for letting us have the opportunity to address you. Let me start by saying that my husband and I have been resident artists at the school since early 2019. And we've attracted many visitors to our town every year through our studio and shop spaces. I'm also a member of the Accomack Northampton Economic Development Committee, as well as a former board member of the Artisans Center of Virginia. While I'm not representing either of those two entities tonight, it does let you know that I have the benefit of a 30,000-foot view of how the arts can impact a small community, as well as the Commonwealth of Virginia as a whole. I have seen firsthand the importance of investing in the arts as an economic driver for a region, and I can attest to the importance of promoting the arts as an asset for this town. Over the years, the school has become a hub for the arts community, with more independent professional working artists and artisans under one roof than any other location on the shore. This creative community has not only contributed to the cultural richness of our town, it also successfully brought visitors and revenue to support us and the town's businesses. The recent recognition of the Historic Anacog School as one of the top 3 art galleries on the Eastern Shore by Coastal Virginia Magazine is a testament to the power of the arts to draw visitors and support our local economy. One of the most important local benefits of the arts is their ability to bring people together, solidifying communities and giving them an identity that they can be proud of. The arts are a driving force in any town that embraces them. Statistics show that a dynamic and diverse art scene can lead to cultural, aesthetic, and financial benefits for the entire community. The pavilion will provide a space for artists and performers to showcase their talents, expanding the richness of the life of our community, while also expanding the town's economy by attracting affluent visitors from a wide market area. I understand that there are concerns and opposition to the pavilion project, but I urge you to consider and give weight to the potential long-term benefits it will bring to the town. Changes can be unsettling for people, but we must embrace well-considered progress and altruistic new ideas if we wish to grow and thrive culturally and economically. As Marie Forleo often says, and it's really appropriate tonight, everything is figure-outable. This one is too. I ask you to support the Pavilion Project and continue to promote the diversity of our town's arts as one of our most dynamic assets. Thank you for your time and consideration.
I forgot to mention there's a 3-minute time limit, and I and she maybe 5-10 seconds. Thank you very much. Yeah, I got it as well. Rick Turner. Please
Very
state your
quickly,
name, where you live.
3 Hancock Street. And I'd like to just mention that much of the discussion has been about this being some sort of a negative, scary event. And I want to assure you that that was not the intent of anyone who devised this idea. And I'm somewhat upset personally by it even being considered that way as some negative, horrendous thing that is going to ruin the town. In fact, as Karen was kind enough to point out, there's a lot of potential. One, I'll just mention quickly. At the last town meeting, a man named Phil was introduced as someone who is going to be a paid advisor to the town. And in his discussion, he pointed out numerous towns in Virginia, small towns, I might mention, that have been either saved or enriched by various music and cultural programs. The man is a consultant to this town who's being paid to tell us what we already know and what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Brenda Smith?
Can I speak from here?
Yeah, be sure everybody can hear you.
Okay. Brenda Smith, 12 Market Street. I've been associated with several 501c3 registered organizations. And I've never experienced an occasion where an outside group has been able to come in and question the plans, operation, budget, fundraising of an organization. So I believe the board of an Hancock school has been more than accommodating in answering questions of town residents. I recently attended a meeting at Cokesbury on Tuesday, and it was advertised in the Eastern Shore Post as a drone's eye view of Anacog. And I went thinking it would be something like a scenic tour of Anacog from the air. But it was a presentation by ORG similar to what has been presented here. During question and answer, I asked what were the expectations of ORG going forward? And that is, what do they want done? Mr. Felthouse read a list, and many of the concerns were about parking, litter, noise, and alcohol. Now, I believe a majority of those concerns can be addressed by township ordinances. One of the issues discussed was money. Historic Anacog School, Friends of Historic Anacog School, lease the building and property from the town. And as long as they do not violate the lease, they should be allowed to manage their organization as they see fit. Citizens should not be concerned about whether or not ticket prices are too high for the population. If an Anacog school miscalculates, then that is on them. By the way, recently advertised Bloxham Fire Department has a country music concert scheduled, and those ticket prices are $60. Habitat for Humanity Gala tickets are $125. Both of those are 501c3 registered organizations. Historic Anacog School asked for $100,000 of ARPA money. That was not town taxpayer money. And as a quick reminder from a couple of years ago, when the dog park was first envisioned, there was a citizens group that made a presentation. And part of that presentation was that funds would be raised privately, no town money would be used. I believe in last year's budget, 25,000, maybe it was 2 years ago, 25,000 of ARPA money went to the dog park. Another figure recently tossed around was $1 million. I'd like to caution everyone. Some of this is brainstorming, okay? We are tossing out ideas as a community. We're searching for possible solutions. The town does not own the school, it's in need of repairs. We're brainstorming. Please don't get caught up in these off-the-cuff ideas and suggestions as if they were done deals. In conclusion, I'd remind everyone that we have elected officials who, with our input, make decisions for the town. Non-members of any organization cannot micromanage a private organization. Concerns have been raised, they're being addressed. It's time to let the system work and move forward.
Thank you. Bradley Howell?
Yeah, Bradley Howard, 33 Hill Street. I just moved here, so I don't have a whole lot of background on this, but one of the reasons I moved here was I discovered the arts community at the Historic Anacog School. I'm a little confused at why this is even being questioned at this point. If I read the minutes of previous meetings correctly, this was all thoroughly vetted at one point. The HOS has a lease that permits them certain operating parameters, and the town approved the improvements to the real estate, as I understand. Is that correct? Yeah, I guess I'm just confused. I don't know why we're second guessing and Monday morning quarterbacking decisions that have already been made with full transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Clemens?
I'm Mary Clements. I live at 8 Joint Street and I own a 59 Market Street, which is a business. There's a couple of things that I'm not going to say tonight because I have not read the school's information. I did not know it was out there. I do keep up with websites, so I obviously missed it. I am going to say, first of all, thank you to the town council for putting up the temporary no parking signs on Joint Street, which was one of my issues back in January. For the St. Patrick's Day parade event, because Joint Street is very cramped and you could not get an ambulance down it if you parked on both sides, which has been happening for many, many years. Therefore, please continue to do it when there's county events. Please continue to do it if the school continues to do what they're going to do for parking. Parking is a problem. Trash is a problem. I've had people pee on my front yard when they go to events.
And I am asking that the school look at this stuff and figure out what you can do about it. Or if you have me do something about it, it will not be very pleasant individually. The other thing is in January, I had asked that changes to the zoning be made on the parks information. The reason being is we didn't know about this. I didn't know about this. A lot of people didn't know about this before it ever got to, as far as it got to. I would have recommended a few things because I have lived here a really long time. What I would like to have done is a change to the zoning regulations regarding parks and open spaces. The parks are owned by the taxpayers of Anacog. We are the ones who are supposed to be supporting these things, no matter what happens with the lease. And this is an unusual park. I'm asking that there be a addition that says, except for maintenance for repairs of existing buildings, any new construction or additions to existing construction and structures that are larger than 100 square feet or greater than $5,000 in value require a public meeting describing the design, use, financial obligations, and any other topic presented during the public session, and that it be before any groundbreaking occurs or awarding of any contracts, building contracts. I also request that the concerns of the residents who live immediately around the area be included in council minutes or in some way communicated to the rest of the public. Because many of us missed out on the opportunity to say, maybe you should have done it a little bit differently. And now it all looks back like we're saying that we hate the idea. Most of us don't hate the idea. We just think that it went about design and development incorrectly. Is that 3 minutes?
That's it.
Thank you very much. Mary? Patrick, to give us a copy of what you did. I always do. Thank you. There will be more copies in the back as well.
Are you cold?
Sarah freezing, so I think she's cold. It's freezing. Maybe it's just-
Greg Temple? Are you trying? Okay, I've got both things going on.
Good evening. I'm Greg Temple. I live at 76 Market Street here in town. Lived here about not quite 11 years. Where'd Matt go? My questions were. Because, well, I really wanted to ask him a question.
It's like comment, it's not really an answering the question.
Oh, well, I was trying to understand what was going on with the RPA.
Yeah, okay, we hold that, I was gonna give, I'm an error, I was gonna address that myself, and I talked to Hayden and Matt about that. So that is the subject, you're right, that's my fault, the RPA, that's still we're still looking at it, Matt.
Yeah.
The school is,
He saw me stand up.
the building permit is expired, the school is in the process of reapplying for a new building permit. There's some issues because they don't have a contractor, so they're working on that, so you'll more information on that later. That's gonna slow things down a little bit. The RPA, I think we've been told by this, there's the existing thing that mitigation is gonna be all right to address the RPA by the state. But yeah, yes, yeah, whatever mitigation is necessary according to the state last report. Yeah.
So are they gonna put that in writing?
Yes, we'll get that. I'm paraphrasing what they said. It's not, I don't quote me on that yet, but that's the conversation that's had with the state or agency. Yeah.
In case some of you don't know RPA and all that, subsequent to the foundation being replaced, the town commissioned a survey for another purpose. And that survey, which is the survey of record, showed that at least a corner of the foundation is within the RPA, which is the resource protected area and in violation of the Chesapeake Bay Act. And so that has to be remediated for this project.
I'm telling you, he's on the RPA. We're still in, we think we can remediate that. That's what, nothing's in writing yet, but correct. Yeah, so we're still working out. We will let you know. I'm not trying to cover up anything about that, but that's still an ongoing concern.
Yeah, my question, I
council,
just wanted an update on it.
yes, and has not been totally dissolved, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to get back to that point, please. I'm just making a note. Thank you.
Oh, okay, yeah. Patsy Feldhausen? Patsy here? Yeah. Oh, there you go.
I believe I will try and address things back here. Oh my goodness, I don't know where to begin. I'm Patsy Feldhausen. I live at 5 Ames Street. The house with the flying pigs. It was my intention to speak tonight about an incident that personally affected me. An FOS board member was standing on the dock at the school. The dock provides a view of the creek. Took out his cell phone, and began taking photographs of my home, my backyard. He was unaware that I was outside working in my yard. It was a beautiful day, and I was standing there in disbelief, watching him take photos of my home. I did not understand what the intent was at that time. And because our time is limited, I am not going to get into that tonight, but it's a good story. And worth perhaps checking on up to into at some point. What I really want to talk about, and what I'm here to address, is SOS's note from the director, an email with blast that was launched this past Saturday on their website under the heading, a note from the director, hello and happy spring. The tone shifts pretty quickly from happy spring to an all caps, red letter, call to arms. What bothers me most is the following sentence in that release. FOS chose to pause all construction last November after a campaign against the pavilion became unbearable. Last November, a campaign that was unbearable. Rick King, the contractor of the pavilion at that time, I'm just learning he no longer is, in his own memo entitled Pavilion Status, dated 10/31/2022. This document was handed out to the town council, to the mayor, to the town manager, and to the board of FOS. It is chock full of really good information. The key thing in this is that Rick King states, we will pause for likely 2 to 3 months because all supplies have been delayed 16 to 18 weeks, and it will be unlikely that we can proceed until mid-March to mid-April of 2023. It has nothing to do with a campaign that was unbearable. It was a proposed pause. It was planned and called by the contractor of the school. Rick King.
Thank you. Jeff Albright. Albert, I'm sorry, Albrechtson.
Hi, Jeff Albrechtson, 6 Johnson Street in Hancock. I was gonna talk about something else, but I think we need to clarify a couple of things tonight. I've heard some really abstract things going on here tonight. First of all, I believe Mr. Rochester knows who people in the Onancock resident group are because he read every one of our names. He needs to reread those names so you know who we are. I live 2 blocks from the pavilion that's being built. I moved here 1.5 years ago. I had no intention of being involved in this friction of this community. We've been called names. We've been demonized. And I don't get it, people. I don't get it. We found out at a meeting, at a council meeting, there were new people in the town. We came to this meeting and we heard that FOS was looking for $100,000 and it sparked interest in us. What do they need $100,000 for? At the same time, there were issues in town with the police department. we were down to 2.5 cops. For a town of, what, 1,200 people, so where are the cops? A bunch of different things going on. Brenda Smith made the comment, an outside group. ORG is members of residents who live on Johnson Street, Joint Street, Holly Street. In that area, we were concerned with a building that was being built to be a performance pavilion to accommodate 500 to 600 people with a lot of music going on. That is the gist of who we are. And we have researched and analyzed and looked at a lot of things relating to the school. We are not anti the school. I've been in the school. I'm an artist myself. I don't know that I'd want to go to that school at this point. I can't even walk down the street and look at some people here because it's like, who are you? Well, I'm a new resident in town and I'm a taxpayer in town, and I have to ask questions about something that the school wants to build. That's all that this is about. So let's have these discussions. We have met with this school for the last 4 or 5 months and participated, and we helped prepare these documents you're looking at. So let's recognize us, let's not even call us ORG anymore. Let's call us local residents who are concerned about something going on in town, which you constantly are talking about for months here. I'd like to be able to walk down the street and smile at people because that's my nature. God, you better get to know me because I can laugh. But this has been pretty hideous. And Joni, you're wrong. This is not unbearable. All we do is bring things to the attention of people. We're not here to be nasty. Thank you. That's all I got to say.
Bill Burnham.
Yeah. Council, Bill Burnham, 46 Kerr Street. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Onancock Business and Civic Association. We're a 77-member group that represents our members are civic and business members of the community. On Tuesday, April 4th, the OVCA Onancock Business and Civic Association Board of Directors expressed their unanimous support of historic Onancock School in the building and operating of an arts and musical performance pavilion on school property. This was support that was first vocalized in November, and we felt, given the events over the winter, that it was important to reiterate and revocalize our support for this endeavor. OVCA's mission, in part, reads that OVCA is here to increase the success of the Onancock business community, both collectively and as individuals, in order to enhance Onancock's quality of life. Onancock's board itself is comprised of both business owners and residents. Together, this board views the benefits of a performing arts pavilion for our business community as substantial, both in terms of visitors who will attract to Onancock and the potential for spillover business to our restaurants, galleries, and shops. Support for this project is in line with our mission to partner with other community organizations in promoting Onancock as a destination for visitors. So I wanted to get that on the record, and I'm happy to provide a copy to council town. Obviously, I've been gone for most of the winter. Watched a lot of this unfold from afar, although the board of directors does have people who are intimately involved in this project. I kind of actually want to echo something that Mark said. When I came back into town, walking down the street, I wondered, geez, are they for or against? What's the deal? Never in 16 years have I had that feeling. I'm optimistic. Having seen the town and the council work through some big issues, whether it's the treatment plant, managers, other issues that have really seemed to have been ahead of us, that we have found a way to move forward. And I'm going to hold on to that optimism for this project as well. So good luck and.
Large, Lavelle. Sorry. Large.
Oh, okay, Margie Lavity. Oh, sorry, that's okay, you can't read my writing. I'm Margie Lavity, my husband and I have a studio in the historical Nantucket School Stepping Stone Arts. I speak in support of the pavilion, and I am sorry, having only moved here in 2021 to this wonderful place, to see how much this has caused trouble in the town and how it's divided people. And I hope that what you can think about mostly is that this is a performance pavilion. Before my husband John and I moved here, we had a nonprofit, and still have the nonprofit in North Carolina, where we brought people together in a community that never shared before. We brought them together through music, through performance, through art. That is what this is about. That is what this school is about. It's about community. And the pavilion can do that. And the people who have put their heart and soul into the planning and the construction and the ordering of materials and the raising of funds. These are people in your community who care about this community. If I asked right now, how many people would like to have a wonderful music performance pavilion that would bring people together in the community, how many of you would say yes? I think that this can happen. And I think it needs to happen without pretending like we haven't been talking about it. We've been talking about it. There have been meetings about it for months. We have been talking about it. We just need to listen a little bit more. We need to listen to the people who it's going to affect the most. And I have to say, in support of Joni, who works her tail off for all of us at the school. Thank you, Joni, for everything that you do for us. And if you put out a cry for help, for us to speak up for the school, well, thank you very much. It was to get us here. It wasn't to offend anyone. It was to allow us to say, yes, we care about this community. We want this to happen. We need this to happen. We need the pavilion to happen so that we have another mechanism to support the school. That's what it was for in the first place. Thank you, Rick King, for the idea and for making it happen. Rick has put his heart and soul in this. He's not doing it to offend anyone. We love this town. We all love the music. How many of you go to every music performance that we have? My goodness. One more great music performance where we can actually use that performance to support the school. How cool could that be? So I say support the pavilion in any way that we can. Get the rules done. Stop arguing about, we can make it happen. We can make it happen so that all the neighbors are happy too.
Thank you. Priscilla?
I'll pass.
Yes. Sandra? Sure. Greg Feldhausen?
Yes, Greg Feldhausen, 5 Ames Street. My comments will be largely extemporaneous because the other things that I thought about, you probably heard many a time before. I don't think any of the citizens, anybody here tonight objects to a pavilion. I'll underline that. I don't think anywhere has it been said by any of us that we are against a pavilion. I think the scope of the pavilion is really the biggest issue. I think if you look at the guidelines that were proposed by the FOS, look at them closely. Because the Freeman Arts Pavilion is advocated as the model from whence the pavilion will be developed.
Go on the website, anybody, and look at what the Freeman Arts Pavilion is. It's $26 million. It's 5,000 people. It's a huge host of volunteers to support it. Now, the idea of incorporating the entire community into being those volunteers, I'm all for that. I mean, I would be happy to volunteer. But I don't want it, and I don't think it's economically even remotely feasible that that can work in this small town with venues every weekend, twice a weekend. We don't have the population to support it. And if anybody looks and says I'm wrong, read the guidelines. In that, it is no different than what was proposed back in December. So after months of our group working to try and present our concerns, the response is basically, here's what we proposed in December, take it or leave it now. I applaud Maphis and Joy for having the gumption to just say, let's talk about what limits may apply. Months ago, I talked to Matt and Fletcher and said, are there ordinances we can develop to just establish what the rules are going to be? That's where it all started. And honestly, we're not people that cannot make a compromised judgment on anything. I mean, that's how we survive. I've been in business many, many years. I know what it is like to deal with people and patients. And all of us can get along and get it and agree. I absolutely support that. But we've got to have people that'll talk and tell us the truth. And we got to obey the laws. Chesapeake Bay Act has been violated. That's the truth. We didn't make that happen. It is the law. And I would espouse that people that promote, support our environment, and I know Hayden is supposed to be one of those, would be right there saying, what's the rule? How do we get this straight for future generations?
Thank you.
Clark.
Nice to see everybody out this evening. Once again, I feel it the great stress.
Introduce yourself.
All right,
Introduce yourself.
Mark William, Johnson Street. My only observation this evening, I'm gonna keep it on the upside this evening. I'm very hopeful this evening. I believe we're making progress in coming to an understanding. I want to commend the council there for finally, you're gonna sit down and look at what's proposed. I think that's great. Then perhaps the next vote will be more informed than your last. Nobody is against the pavilion. Hey, what a great idea. What all the trail to me. When it was talking about becoming a commercial music venue. Keep the pavilion for the kids, for the culture, for the arts. Nobody's gonna have an objection for it. We're all in favor. We all are in favor of the school. I want to wish everybody a good evening, and I look forward to working with the town council. Thank you all very much.
Kathy? Boyd?
I don't want to, I mean, I don't have anything to say.
Oh, you signed in. I'm sorry. You have to talk. I'm sorry.
Anything you want to say?
How about those minutes? The last, Janet Foskey. Yeah, all right.
This has nothing to do with the pavilion, so anybody that has pavilion, go ahead of me. I'm Janet Foskey with the 60 Market Street. I'm also president of Nantucket Main Street, the Downtown Revitalization Organization. And I just want to thank this community for embracing Seth Louboutin, the muralist that's working on the mural that you can see across from the town parking lot right here. He's a sweet guy and a lot of fun to talk to. And there have been so many of you who have invited him over for dinner. who have just stopped and talked to them and asked questions, bought him gift certificates to some of the shops around here. I know Bill Burnham took him kayaking on Sunday just to make sure that he got to see the creek. His parents came to visit on Saturday and he was walking around and so many people stopped and said, "Hey, Saturday." That's how I could get a voted mayor while we're getting this thing over here. So that's the community I know.
Yes.
And thank you for all of you for embracing him the way that you have.
All right, we're gonna take a 3-minute break here, before we start on our committee reports. Let's get,
That's always the plan. Now we can do that, so another round for us. Yeah, maybe. That's my answer. Why is it that needs Thank you for being here.
We got you.
The market.
5 minutes. We'll be gone. You the guy. Yeah, sorry. We're gonna break.
I was there.
Did you carry your bag? No, so now. It's good play up the play class and what? But I did fun. Yeah.
All right, we're back, we're adjourned again. We're not- I mean, we're accepted. No, we're accepted. See you.
Nobody hears comments.
That's, wrong.
See that?
There's good either.
What is boy?
We need to take a break.
Come on, let's go.
Okay, committee reports, personnel, city's not here, we didn't do anything. Planning commission. We had a meeting. Yeah, there was, they were talking about signing, right? Or three?
Yeah, we just finished up the signage and we went through a couple of
Yeah.
new applications that are coming your way.
Waterfront, we had a, waterfront committee, we have, obviously, have you all met the new harbor master? Yeah, guess we need to bring him to the council meeting at some point, yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. Just swing in. Charles is a super nice guy.
Yeah.
We, Charles, Harry, Harry,
He's around the corner from you.
yeah, like 3 doors down.
He's 3 doors down from you.
On me though.
On Meadville.
Yeah,
Is,
Maybe I know him, but I
You
don't.
probably do, yeah.
is the wharf open?
yes.
Are the
It's
restrooms
not
open?
When the wharf is open and the restrooms are open, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, 2 doors down.
I was asked that today.
Biggies.
Oh, that's, I do know.
Like 4 hours apart.
But I didn't know he was gone.
It's partial right now because we really don't have anything going on. Reservations really start up in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So everybody.
Thank you.
has harbor master. Yeah, okay, had none, okay, any other comments about that work? I mean, we're coming along, nothing really to report.
Yeah, no, I mean, we got our golf carts. We had a lot of bumps in the road to open the building. So those seem to be all resolved. And, you know, we've had a few reservations come in and they spoke just as highly as they always do.
Yeah.
And we, you know, the fuel pump broke and we got that fixed. So it's just been bumpy as far as repairs and maintenance, but
Yeah.
we seem to be moving along nicely now.
Right.
Calm waters.
Yeah.
Have you considered line scooters?
The answer is yes, but I haven't found any community that has found them to be beneficial because they end up laying all over the place when people just drop them.
Yeah, I think we need to have somebody just rents a scooter that comes back,
Yeah,
and then, I mean, you know, a private sector needs to pick that up, I think, I don't think we.
They're a lot cheaper than golf carts, I would think.
They're free, golf carts are free.
Yeah.
We let them, oh, I mean, talking
They're
about,
not.
yeah.
but we let them have them for free.
No, we don't. We do not.
We rent it to people? I'm sorry, golly. I thought they got it for free.
Hard to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's free.
Oh, yeah, we go down and figure ride.
I'm sorry, I stand corrected.
No. It's $50 a day.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right.
How we pay those things back.
The problem is, yeah, if you want to go, no.
And they're like, they're books,
Yeah.
like, pretty much.
Can anybody in town rent or only people that?
Voters get right of first refusal, but if there's no voters that have reserved them, then a county can rent them, yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
There you go.
Yeah, don't be spreading that.
I'm glad to bring me on that.
Yeah.
Not that I was gonna go down there and do that. All right. Okay, yeah, I don't have a lot to report to the mayor. Jan and I went to the Main Street Conference up in Boston and it was extremely, really productive. It's just good to see what other, you know, we tend to reinvent the wheel a lot here to see what other towns are doing. You know, a lot of the stuff in Boston was a little bit larger scale, but there's some really good stuff. I think Main Street's can incorporate a lot of that. We're doing a lot of stuff that, we're already doing a lot of stuff that other towns are doing. You know, we're really come a long way with a lot of stuff. June 20th of this year is the last day to file to run for the special election. Doesn't really affect anybody. We have a special election in November, and it's June 20th. So if you do that, the other comment, I don't really, I don't think we have anything coming up, any events really coming up in the next month or nobody here anymore. All right, town manager report.
I'm sorry, just going back, I'm sorry, 1 minute.
That's
The
fine.
special election is for what reason? Only Brandon,
Brandon's seat is up for reelection.
just that one.
Yeah,
For 1 year.
for 1 year. Yeah, he's got to run again. Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was what it was, but I didn't know that was the only candidate
Yeah, we have no election scheduled this year. Next year we'll have three. Yeah.
Right, so in 1 year, there's 3 seats are, is that correct?
Yeah, next year, 2024, there'll be 3 seats up.
Who's 3 seats?
Whoever didn't run last time.
Mine, you.
Brandon.
And then Brandon or whoever takes this.
Correct. Okay.
And the mayor, I have to run again.
So if Brandon wants to run again, he needs to reapply.
He has to, yeah, he has to
Yes.
file. I'm sure he's aware of that. He's still got 2 months, but it's real early considering the elections in November.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, real early. Town manager?
I'm gonna run through some updates on my report that's been in writing, so. Just popping down top to bottom, the HRSD transition. The Jefferson Street project is actually now scheduled. The HRSD commissioners. Approved the budget for that, so that to put sewer lines in on Jefferson. And then they're gonna overlay and mill the road. We also have to put water lines in on that same thing. That'll be taking place late spring, summer. So I would probably say midsummer if I were guessing. Popping down the Marshall Street has been substantially completed. The guys did a phenomenal job on that. And now the Holly Street culverts are underway. They got the one crossing the street today and tomorrow. I'm hoping they get close to being finished, but that's been a big project we've been waiting on. And the residents of Holly Street have been waiting on it because once we finish this, then VDOT can schedule the putting in their storm ditches. The Northeast project, we have a management meeting tomorrow, but the bid for the 6 houses should have gone out last week.
Excuse me, may I ask a question where you?
Please, yeah.
Okay, there are 6 houses going into for bid for this, to be demolished.
Yes.
Are there any others being considered for demolition?
No, because the budget doesn't allow for any more.
Okay, but how about right on Market Street? Is there one on Market Street that is?
It's not in the district.
It's not in the district.
Oh, it's only that district?
It's only in that district. The
Oh.
houses have already been named. The owners already signed off on a release.
Okay,
Yeah, at this point, they're just trying to get clean title on these houses, and once then they've got it on 3.
I just wanted to know if there were others that were being considered to be demolished,
No.
but no, it's just that. Thank you.
The VTC grant, we're starting the design of the walking map and the app. I've got a meeting with the app company tomorrow. It's the same one that Chincoteague uses. It looks awfully good, so I think it's gonna be a good step in the right direction. Once we get something to edit rather than opine on, we'll have a group get together and start helping us.
Have you talked with the Historical Society about this?
Not yet. I haven't talked to anybody other than trying
Because
to
they
get.
have an app that they're using to, or they're working on to do walk around the house, and that they said it can, and they also, since you're talking historical points of interest, I think they can help you
Well,
out.
I can, the historical points of interest, I'll definitely help them, but this is a tourism app, not a.
Yeah, but so I talked to her and she said she was, could help with that, over the historical stuff.
Well, clearly with the historical stuff, no problem.
Yeah.
The IRF, that's the Lilliston Building Grant. That one, we've had our documents into our attorney's hands for a couple weeks now. We need to get a performance agreement between us and the developer to make sure they actually do what they say they're gonna do. The notes being finalized, all of that. So it seems to be, that's moving along. It's not moving as quickly as any of us would like, but it's moving.
We still don't know terms of payment or anything.
In all likelihood, we do. Yeah, I mean, I've got,
Is that, wait a minute, in all likelihood we do.
yeah, I mean, at this point, there's no ink on any paper, but it's 2.5% over 20 years.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's been part of the beginning.
Well, 2.5%.
Yeah.
Well, I knew it was a low to no, but I didn't.
Yours is in there too. He could pay it
But
earlier.
we were talking about it being a revolving fund, so I wanted to, well, I understand that it is, but I'm just saying you have to have money to make it revolve. That's just wondering when it will and how it will.
Right. The police department met with the architects and engineers. They're now able to go back and put together construction documents for that project. The one that I'm coming forward tonight and asking that we meaning council comes to agreement on the use and layout of the welcome center. So that I can get to the same place with the architects and engineers where they can get, they can start working on CDs. So that one, we've got 3 council members who had comments that were different than the layouts that were put forward. And before we get, you know, I'm not going to put them into the architect's hands until we get unanimous agreement, not necessarily on the use. Because a room is a room, what we choose to do with a room is afterwards, but, you know, number of bathrooms, where they're facing, where the doors are, that type of thing, and we really need that. So I'd like for us to come to agreement on that, because I do need to get those in, because we do need to get those funds encumbered.
I was reading the OBCA minutes from the previous meeting of this month, the month before, and you reported that on Ancoff, Maine, which I assume is in Ancoff, Main Street, this was March 7th, that there would be 3 kiosks in town to distribute walking maps, is that correct?
I don't know if they'd be distributing walking maps, but I know kiosks are part of a conversation that we're all having, but.
It's part of the grant that's actually going in this Friday, downtown improvement grant. To give, 24/7 access to information. So there'll probably be like a 3-sided with a town map on one side and maybe sheltered paper walking maps and things like that, because there are still people who don't know how to get that on their phone. And then maybe, it could even be 4-sided, and then maybe a side that has whatever events are happening, that kind of thing, or a history of the town, just there, we've got all sorts of examples of it, but we're thinking that in front of the Welcome Center area, in front of the Chandler Building, possibly, and down at the wharf, and then right now we're thinking the dog park, because a lot of people, we come off,
Purpose of the dog park.
run the dogs and see, hey, you may have only gotten as far as the dog park, but look at what else you could do while you're here.
Yeah.
So, it's not, the purpose of those is not to capture somebody, it's to help somebody once they're here.
I was talking with Cindy about this because we spent 3 weeks in small towns traveling, and that's how we got information, was basically from a kiosk. We would pick up a brochure and it's like, oh, there's a cheese factory here, let's go to that. Never saw a welcome center. That's it.
If you took pictures of them, I'd love to see them, because we've been collecting, we've got about
Yeah.
40 examples right now. But that's good to know, Joy.
We're spending $340,000.
Well, it's the bathrooms.
And town.
The bathrooms are expensive. Yeah.
Right, I mean, it's not, so you're not spending that on a welcome center, you're spending that on restrooms in the center of town.
It's expensive to put in the concrete floor. So what do you want, how do you want to handle this? Maybe we need to come up with some kind of I know, agreement.
Can we add it to the workshop conversation, session conversation?
Yeah, I mean, we can, I think we need to, I can talk to the people beforehand, show them.
That would be great. I mean, anything we can do to just have everybody say, yes, the layout that they've got is fine, or, no, we've got to rework it. Because whether we use the front room as an interactive welcome center, or whether we use it as a closet, it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't change the construction costs.
In terms of the interior.
Right.
Yeah, but we do need to get the bathrooms figured out. Yeah, that's the money.
That's the money.
When we renovate the police station, will the bathrooms be going to those?
Yes.
Portable bathrooms?
Yes, they will.
Yeah, that space will become part of the police station.
That's what's on.
We're gonna do both. The same contractor's gonna do both. That would be our night. You don't know yet.
No, I don't know yet. I'm gonna try. That's why I'd really like to get both sets of CDs out ready for bid at the same time.
Yeah, all right. And we're still at the end of the 25, so we have to have it done.
24. We have to have it encumbered by the end of 24.
What is encumbered?
Means that we have to have a contract in hand.
Oh, so it doesn't have to be,
Contract.
doesn't have to be done. It's.
So it has to be done by 26,
Oh, yeah, that's why,
But, you know,
I knew there were 26.
but every dollar has to be accounted for by 24.
Either spent or encumbered.
Okay, so that's, okay. That's, all right. Thank you. Okay.
So you'll circle the wagons and talk to folks about.
Yeah, but I think we can, yeah, I'd like to have it, it's hard to have a open council, meeting when you're looking at plans, it's just, it's just difficult. And we'll show everybody the plans, we discuss it at the meeting, but then everybody will have a chance to look and weigh in on what they want to do. And then, we can talk to,
Okay,
or the council at least, and then any other interested.
okay.
I can't think.
So the Northeast Park, I have 3 playgrounds. The salesperson that's helping me design and do all that is at a college visit with his daughter, so he'll be back probably tomorrow or the next day, and then we'll be able to put the 3 ideas in front of the group and let them decide what they're gonna do. They're all.
So we're spending 52,000 on the Northeast Park now?
You're gonna be spending more than that.
I explain the history of this a little bit to me. I mean, we
We
originally,
started with 35,000.
in the original,
Well, the original, you made me split out the money that we gave Escadin, so every project got reduced.
okay, what was the original thing we meant to pay?
50,000.
Yeah, it's 50,000.
Okay, so that's okay.
So then.
We talked about 50,000 originally.
And we brought it back down, and now we're
Yeah.
bringing it back up, and the requirements that are being put in front of me, we will not be able to achieve the 52,000.
Well,
Matt, I have a question about
We have to
that.
have a budget on it and the state, that's what it's gonna be? I mean, can't we get a playground for 50,000?
Yes, I can, but when I put the one in front of the group that would put us on budget, that wasn't acceptable.
Who's raising the money for this?
It's ARPA.
It's ARPA funds, but I mean,
Well, we're spending 40,000 on the Sunset Park at
Well,
the
no.
park, which is one parking spot, right? So this is for 48% of our community.
what now?
48% of our residents live in the Northeast community.
But I mean, I understand, but I mean, I think we need to have some budget number that, I agree with what they say, but they just can't come in and say, well,
250,000.
yeah, $250,000.
Well, I don't think anybody's gonna do that, are we, Matt?
But I mean, I thought they were happy with the 35,000 thing we picked out, and now they're not, I guess I need to talk to.
We discussed that at the meeting when you weren't here, I think.
I mean, the problem, there's another, I mean, there's 2 playgrounds within, one within 200 yards of where they are. Not, I just feel like that, I'm all for spending some, but we gotta stay within budget, is all I'm saying, and then the original agreement was 50,000. I think we should hold it to the 50,000. That, I agree, we should have brought it up from the 35, but I think we should stay somewhat close to 50.
So what would $2,000 do?
Well, I'm not gonna go about 52, but I think he's saying it's even gonna be more than that.
No, it's gonna, I mean, the requirements that they're giving me are, it's gonna cost about. I'm doing math in my head, I'm sorry, about $32,000 to $36,000 for the playground itself. And then we need to add a toddler swing set. So we have to add that, that's another minimum $10,000. And you've got installation, delivery, and ground cover. And those are very expensive, so it's just.
So if it's gonna be 2,000, I mean, is that,
I'm not cool about, I just, I thought I haven't thought of the difference between 50 and 70 or 80,000.
It won't be 70 or 80,
Yeah, that's, I just don't want to go that.
but I
way.
can see,
I'm not talking-
60, 65 pretty easily.
Well, I think the council needs to weigh on that before we.
Well, there is, that's why I'm trying to get the designs, and I'm trying to get the community to say this is the one that would be
Yeah.
okay.
Right,
And then, I'll at least be able to come back to you and say, this is either gonna require $15,000 in additional appropriation, or, I can give them options.
yeah, that's fine, I'm like, Ray, I don't want to be spending 100, we need to stay within some, and I think we should honor the original budget that we presented them, right? The original one was 50,000, correct?
right?
Well, yes, that was original before Escadin, but.
And I don't think they should suffer because of Escadin, yeah. Yeah. but- Okay.
Is there any possibility of a small scaling back that would keep the integrity of what they're trying to replicate and yet stay closer to what you've got is the 52 that's here?
They're looking for me to replicate the playground that's at the school. And that's not, I mean, I'm getting the price on that probably tomorrow or the next day, but that'll come in near 100,000. So that's not the case. So that's where I have to show them this would be 100. Here's an option that would be, 60. If I need to shave 8 off or whatever, then this is the option for that. It's just, it's just a matter of going back and forth and the group doesn't communicate via email. So it's a little slow.
I think Joni said they had 40,000 in the school. Of course, I understand that was a year or two ago and
Well, we did.
prices have went up and you had volunteers
We put the
install
thing in
it.
ourselves.
Yeah, but that also didn't include ground cover. It didn't include the other swings because they have those. So if you price it out with exactly what they have now, their invoices that they showed me are well in excess of $50,000. Just their invoices from
Who's that?
the school.
Okay.
So I got those and now I called that same vendor and said, would you please replicate this exact playground for me under today's prices?
And where'd you get?
I haven't gotten it yet. It's gonna
We're
be.
still waiting on, yeah.
For the benefit of the audience, do you mind saying who the group is that you're working with in Northeast End?
There's a
Say
group
name.
of, there's a group of street captains from the Northeast section that worked really well with us on the Northeast Community Grant. And that's the group that's we're working with to shape the playground.
And is there any possibility of having the same kind of volunteers in the school had for installation and work? To help monetize and,
That would be,
value?
that would be the first place I would ask for savings, but would also be the first place for risk for the town, because this isn't, the playground is insured and liability with the school. This would be all on the town, and if we don't assemble it, or if it's assembled incorrectly and somebody gets hurt, that's a problem. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
I realize I'm not.
Good point. Who owns the problem? We do. Yeah,
We
it's-
do.
It's quite a job to put it in. It was-
oh, I can't even imagine, I'm not even considering not budgeting to have.
Yeah, we
this
have.
implement. I mean,
We had a licensed engineer helping us put it in.
yeah,
And we still,
yeah,
and
no,
there was like 10 yards of concrete put in that thing.
yeah.
I know. It wasn't-
How long have had they been waiting for this playground?
Well, since the beginning of ARPA, like every other project,
No, but before that?
that was never really a conversation as far as I'm concerned.
There was an old playground that was falling
There,
apart.
yeah.
And there was some question about what to do with it. There was a basketball court up there and kind of a playground that was falling apart as a town, and we never really discussed it much. We had different opinions about what to do with the basketball court, because some people wanted it there and some people didn't want it there. And in all cases, it was the town park. Yeah.
For years that I know of,
Yeah.
that I've been involved.
But what's the population of young children there? I mean.
That's where the young children are.
Yeah, that's really what the kids are.
Yeah,
Trying to
it's
find
Go back.
see the school.
Old
bus.
not so much in a single family, it's 2 apartment complexes.
No, it's all over the neighborhood. I bike over there in the mornings, and that's where the school buses are.
I mean, Albany's got a swimming pool. And people
That's-
drive over there.
That's a community pool.
Yeah.
Pay to belong to.
Oh, do they?
Okay, yeah.
All right, let's go. Well, I think we have a budget for ARPA, we just can't,
Right, yeah, I mean,
We'll come back.
if there's any reappropriation, you guys will be doing it.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
I
Just
tried to
saying.
believe it's for 35, I thought they would have to 35, I did miss a meeting, I'm sorry.
Well, it was presented, and I asked again, why is it
Been there, done that.
why are we taking that 15 out?
I'll talk about that meeting I had with them that picked it up. Yeah. I was with a group that I thought they were happy to get it picked out, I've not since been involved.
Well, I make that a little bit of a turn.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
All right, so the security cameras, we're scheduling those for mid-May install. Yeah, I don't know if we could get one more delay on that. I'm not sure how, but right now it's the delay currently is that the cameras, I'm sorry, the point to point between the water tower and the DPW yard, where a camera will be on each, uses the same frequency as Nubian's equipment up on top of the water tower. So they won't help us with the internet between those two, so we're either gonna have to trench underneath. Or we're gonna have to use SIM cards. Either way, we're gonna push this thing down the road, but everything else is installed and ready to go. We're just,
Installed?
no, well, the power sources are installed, the internets are all installed. At this point, they just need to show up and start stapling cameras to the poles.
They won't start unless all the agreements are in place.
Correct.
All right.
All right, and then a couple small ones. June 6th, everybody pay attention, is Mayor's Cup. Mayor's Cup is the blood drive competition between all of the towns on the shore. The way that we keep score is the most pints per employee. We have very, very, very few employees. We should win this hands down. So the advertising for all of this is going to start. But Anancock is clearly, our mayor is clearly going to be hoisting the Mayor's Cup on June 6th.
So it's just only, I'm not in here.
What are you talking about?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, first of all, y'all should read your email.
Right.
Yes, I know.
My question is-
There you go.
My question is council considered in this?
We're, I'm trying to convince them that it's full-time equivalent employees, but you would have the same impact on us as you do, as they do on Chincoteague, and they've got many, many, many more employees, so.
So it's just employees.
It's,
But
no,
not
no, no,
towns.
it's the number of pints per employee, so. We have 9 employees,
Oh,
so if we get 1,000 pints, which we're going to get.
it doesn't have to come from 9 employees.
Right, no, it's, so that is, that's like 111 per employee. Right, like Chincoteague's only gonna get like 3, we're gonna have 111, Cape Charles isn't even gonna have any.
What about only?
See, this is what I'm saying,
All right.
that was me trash talking.
So other people-
Camera since then,
Mayor's Cup.
right here,
Oh.
blood drive, right
So
here.
who has signed up yet?
Advertising is coming, the sign up sheets are coming, it's all happening.
But it's a blood drive to the community.
Yes, it's a
Yeah, okay,
community
that's what I
blood
don't
drive,
understand.
community blood drive.
I thought it was just the guys, you guys were doing.
No, no,
That
no.
sounded like a better deal.
The community blood drive, and the way they keep score to find out who wins is based on the number of employees. So because we don't hire very many people here,
Got it.
we're gonna win.
Go for it, Mayor.
Here you go. What should we waste in that? It's in the cup.
I gotta get blood.
That's right.
Actually, I've never gotten blood.
You have not?
No,
Oh, wow.
I have to.
I couldn't because I was, had some weird medication when I was in anti-malarial medication.
Oh.
They said I couldn't get it because of that, but that's long. That
That's probably 70.
was when I was in college.
Yeah, okay. I said. Getting late. I'm finished. I'm finished. Thank you. And on a high note.
What about the financial report? Any questions about financial report?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that our cash position is really quite strong. We're doing just great. We're up 34% year over year. With reserves only, we're up 41% year over year, with no ARPA. So the cash position is doing really well. Everything else, there's nothing on the budget versus actual that is of any material concern. Okay.
I did have a question, Mayor. Page 56, small tools and equipment under parks and landscaping. Percent of budget 1,981. What did
Yeah.
you buy for $49,000?
We bought a chipper that hasn't been reimbursed by USDA yet.
Thank you.
And once they reimburse us, it'll go against that, it'll be 0, and you'll see that we spent nothing on small tools.
All right, Ray, any comments?
No comments.
No, Joy?
Yes, I'm happy to see all the good things going on around town. 6 derelict houses coming down. I actually spent the day with the guy from AMPDC and the 3 or 4 contractors who were going to bid on them. And it was very interesting. Also, the Industrial Revitalization Fund with the Littleton building is looking great, and the mural and so many good things happening. I would like to correct one thing though. That was said that Mavis and Joy. Good to see what limits apply. That really was not my goal. My goal was to have an open meeting, an open forum. Not for council to set limits. Thank you.
No comment. Couple of things. One, the town looked great for Historic Garden Week this past Saturday. I was at Nell Minton's in the afternoon, and the final number of people who toured through that was 660. Not sure how many people were at Car Place, but it was open as well. And Cokesbury was open for half of the time in the early part of the day. So the town looked great, and thank you, everybody. And then the other thing is on the facade grant. As Matt mentioned, the acceptance letters have gone out. There's a little bit of money that was not spoken for in the applications that came in by the deadline, and we're meeting tomorrow to work out what to do with that. That's it.
Good. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.